Vikings-Packers was the game of the week. It just was. Now, the
Great
best game of the week was Sunday night. We'll talk about that in a minute, but Vikings-Packers was great, and I feel like good for Packers fans because, hey, the Packers are good for Vikings fans, not good for Packers fans. The Packers are a good team. Like, they are a good team. That is a challenging football team to beat. It has been challenging to beat them for Detroit twice. It was challenging for the Eagles to beat them in Brazil. It was challenging at the end of the game in both situations for Minnesota. They're a good football team. They're talented. But Minnesota proved yesterday to a lot of people, and I certainly don't count myself in this group of people that thought, this Minnesota thing is a Cinderella thing where at midnight they're going to turn into pumpkins and Sam Darnold's not legit. I'm a Sam Darnold fan, hand up, was a Sam Darnold fan last year when he was taking reps in San Francisco. I didn't think they'd be where they are with a chance at the number one seed, but this team is legit. Okay. And they've proven that they're one of the best teams in the league. Easy. You can make an argument that the best team in the NFC. I'm not here to make that argument. It's going to play out. What's the point of a fucking another talking head telling you who the best team in the NFC? That's about to get sorted out. But this team right now is playing damn good football. And if they get the one seed, look out. That's a really tough place to play. You can't communicate up front. That's a challenge anyways when you're playing a B-flow defense. And the quarterback, it's like the later in the down, the more you know you're absolutely going to get torched by this team. And the longer he holds onto the football, where some guys, the longer he hold on to the football, it's going to be a problem. He holds onto the football a little bit longer, and the zones expand, and Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson, attracting eyes and taking coverage off of other people. Sam's done everything and then some this year. I mean, I think we can shed the narrative that he's just a guy or that he's a bust or that he's only a beneficiary of playing in this offense. Guess what? Every quarterback that plays well in a good offense is a beneficiary, who they play around and who coaches them. This guy belongs in a conversation with some of the best quarterbacks in the league for his play this year. I'm not putting him up there with Mahomes yet. I'm not putting him up there with Josh Allen. I'm not putting him up there with Joe Burrow. I'm not.
Are you putting him up there with Jared Goff though, Chris? You could say that Goff also benefits greatly from their
Goff's run
comparison to make there.
Goff's run in his second act is longer. Out of respect, I have to give that to Goff. But what Darnold has done, and walking into a ball game this weekend where they're going to play each other for the whole shebang, I'm not worried about the quarterback from Minnesota. My worry is not the quarterback in Minnesota. I really don't have a lot of worries with this football team right now, which is why when you look at them top to bottom, they're one of the most complete, if not the most complete team in the league. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's impressive about them. They're 9-1 in one-score games. And Vikings fans, who I know y'all have a complex about this, you think the national media has written you off. I think that 6.5 win total is one that is still kind of sticking in your side. But at this point, at least I can speak for everybody in this room, and it's been this way for some time. Your team's got a good chance of anybody to win the whole damn thing. And so in a year where we were talking about in the car ride over here, Nolan, I couldn't tell you who's going to win the Super Bowl right now. No, in a week, we're going to sit here and do who's your Super Bowl pick? I have no fucking clue. It's so matchup dependent. These guys have a chance to beat anybody, especially if they're at home. What'd you think, Bo?
I love the Vikings, man. I love that staff. Talking about Darnold quickly, I know that you just gave him some flowers, which I'm sure Vikings fans appreciate. You see the way the team celebrated him after the game. Oh. Dude, they fucking love that guy, and they should. He's been balling for them, and no one expected it. Going into the season, everyone thought J.J. McCarthy was going to be the guy. He gets hurt. Everyone's giving Sam Darnold shit because he's, been around the block a little bit, didn't play that well in New York. He's a journeyman, blah, blah, blah. Dude, shout out to Sam Darnold, man. He's an unbelievable player. And I think the reason he isn't getting as much love this season is because everyone recognizes how good KOC is. Yeah. Chris, think about when we went to Minnesota for camp this summer, how good they were to us. But KOC was so calm and poised and this is just a random camp practice, you know what I mean? And I remember walking away from that being so impressed, being this is a fucking guy. This is a coach that I would want to play for, just because of the way, he kind of goes about his business, the way he's personable with you, and just he's just a fucking smart guy too. And then, for them to have the season that they're having is, it's impressive, man. I'm excited about the Vikes. I think if they get home games throughout the playoffs, that'll be huge because it sounded like their stadium was rocking too. Obviously, the big division game against the Packers. So, dude, I'm kind of fully in on the Vikes, man. Like, I love B-Flow's defense. We chopped it up with B-Flow for a while this summer, Chris, and like you see him getting guys like
Yeah.
Van Ginkel, who's playing great. He's producing. Steph Gilmore, kind of at the tail end of his career, is playing well. Like, I don't know, man. They just feel really complete to me, and I hope that they can hang on to this momentum. And I don't know. I feel good about them against the Lions next week.
They've done a
Kind
really
of a
good
Vikings
job.
thing.
I feel good about them against the Lions as well. Look what they just did to a team that couldn't rush the passer. And that's one of the most disappointing things about that game for me, if you're a Packers fan, is, we said it leading up, making a case for why it could be a close game and why the Packers could win this game is like the guys up front, they could affect this game, and they didn't. And as the down goes on,
Yeah.
there's nobody that draws more coverage than Justin Jefferson. Even when he's not traditionally doubled, he's opening voids with eyes. He's affecting like multiple touchdowns yesterday. Naylor touchdown, the late touchdown where Bullard gets caught in quicksand late in the down. That's because of Justin Jefferson. The clearance, everything runs through him. And, he's just the best receiver in the game, period. I mean, the catch at the end of the game, look at the way this team closed out the football game. It's just little things like that. A rare KOC mistake at the half, ironically, they didn't actually have to pay for it because of that kind of a bogus call. It was not kind of a bogus call. It was a bogus call. I think it was on Cooper, right?
Yeah.
On the field goal block. Now, I don't think there's going to be some Packers fans that say 28-27, they win this game if that field goal doesn't get a second opportunity to go through the uprights. I don't buy that. I don't really look at that as kind of revisionist history because the game is played differently depending on the score. But you have a point there. That really hurt them. That was a bad call. Having said that, though, the way the Vikings finished the game, I mean, they've got the ball, and most everybody watching after the Packers storm back is probably thinking Packers aren't getting the ball back. They haven't forced a punt barely all day, let alone a 3-and-out. They get on P10, they get a first down on a boot, so they're willing to throw the ball early, and it kind of works out in the Packers' favor where they get the 2-minute warning, there's a first down, so you just get a fresh set of downs, 3 timeouts. And what they did with that set of downs, instead of just running the ball into a cloud of dust and trying to just, get a first down, make the other team use their timeouts, they weren't afraid to throw the ball on a crosser to Jefferson on second down. And it was a hell of a catch and a hell of a throw. And then third down, Akers, who really isn't even heavily relied upon. You think about the stars on this team, making a play to take that off the turf. They're probably going to have to make a decision, and there's probably no decision to make on fourth down. You're going to have to punt the ball back to a team that's reeled off all these points. They're nails in these situations. They're 9-1 in one-score games. The quarterback is playing like a legit franchise quarterback. And the problem in this league is people have such confirmation bias of who players are. The way it started is who they are. We were calling this guy a bust. I'm not saying we. I'm saying sports media, fans across the country, Vikings fans a calendar year and a half ago, if you walked up to them on the street and they're the nicest people in the world, I'm sure they would still call Sam Darnold a bust. But look what it's done for him being in this situation, and his talents are more clear to see, and the confidence he has. He actually has he's like a serial killer. He was pressing it late in the game. There were 2 decisions he almost made that were bad decisions that he probably didn't need to make. But this guy is aggressive. I think some people thought maybe a second chance guy would have to be a game manager. He ain't that. He's definitely not that. He doesn't have that mindset. This is a team that you don't want to have to go play. And so when you look at them playing Detroit this weekend, and of course Detroit's got, the variability of their situation is huge, both these teams. But Detroit, for whom much of the season we were like, it goes through Detroit. Now look at this place. And maybe that's where a lot of the angst is coming from with the Vikings fans being like, what the fuck? We've been right on their tails the whole year, and nobody's talking about us having home field. Well, you got a chance to go get it this weekend. And I think they have more than a 50% chance of doing that. They're catching 2.5 points last night if you're into the gambling, which I think is an interesting play. You could buy to 3, take the Vikings. know that the Lions tonight probably don't have to win that game, except for the fact that there could be a tie with Minnesota week 18. In that scenario, tonight does matter for Detroit. But all in all, I think with Detroit maybe playing guys tonight, short week, the situation defensively, and the way the Vikings look right now, they're peaking at the right time. They really are. I'm impressed with how Sam kind of he played below his standard against Chicago a couple weeks ago. And I think the naysayers would say, "Hey, I'm not so sure." And at that moment a couple weeks ago, I was like, "Man, I'm a little worried." Like that he's got to play better next week because you don't want to string these games together going to the playoffs. He picked himself off the floor and he's played great. Last couple weeks he had his big moment in Seattle, and then obviously just torching the Packers, who again are down Jair Alexander. They're down Evan Williams, Quay Walker, who when it comes to playing in the middle of the field, and he's not great in coverage, but it's still a ledge between him and the backup. So, Packers, I get it, not at full strength, but it's late in the season. Everybody's banged up. You got to play better. You got to execute better, and you didn't. So here we are, set up for that big matchup this weekend after all the smoke clears at night, Sunday night.